Well, so we want you to get interactive as always on this very platform. And we have the page on Facebook, Joy News on TV, and we also have a handle on Twitter, Joy News on TV. I have my own handle on Twitter as well, Real Walker Ghana. And as you get interactive, please know that all the comments that you tend to post on these platforms will be relayed to you in the course of this whole program. Now, let me just introduce my guests for the morning. I have with me Prince Aminu. He's a spokesperson for the Dombo Advocacy Forum. A very good morning to you, Prince.
Good morning, okay. Brother.
And also Jason Tutu. Jason, how are you?
I'm good.
And Jason is a member of the CPP's communication team. When young people meet, we talk not only things that concern young people, but also look entirely at the structure of the way our society is going for the younger generation. And Jason, let me start with you. How's the CPP doing?
Oh, the CPP is very organized and doing well. Actually, we are the most fantastic party that anyone can look up to in the current turmoil. Yeah, we are good.
Okay. What's the way forward for having a vibrant youth wing, so to speak?
Well, naturally, the CPP has been a youth party. Kwame Nkrumah, the Osagifo himself, became prime minister at a rather early age of 43. Today we have people who are septuagenarians, octogenarians, still hustling to shove people out of their way to get into power. And it tells you that, look, the performance of Kwame was not coincidental. He had energy, he had a zeal, and he had the ability to dialogue across people from various, lengths of the social strata. So sometimes, not always, age is very relevant. And as a youth party, we are reorganizing, rebuilding from the grassroots, and we'll take this country by storm once more for the good of our people.
I love your energy. Okay, so you're with the Dombo Advocacy Forum.
Yes.
And do you think that the current political space in which we have a lot more young people playing critical roles is the one that gives opportunity for young people to inculcate very good values?
I think
looking at the way our society is now.
Yes, I think the MPP has demonstrated in many ways that young people are given opportunity to serve. In government, we had young people, and also through the party structures, ICTA, constituency secretary. I mean, for Kroho, it wasn't easy in the past to have such a young guy managing the affairs of the party at that constituency level. Beyond that, at the regional level, we have young guys that are doing well. National level, we have young representatives. Look at our Nasara coordinator, Kamal Din, a young guy representing the Nasara group of the wing of the party. That is a demonstration that the MPP really is shifting from the old thinking of the consecutive way of doing things, and we are now, as it were, including the youth in decision making. And I believe it will reflect in the next government of the MPP, which I believe in 2016, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo will be the one to lead us to that.
No, we're not here to do. We are here to do endorsements, but that's IDEC, entreating political parties to formulate realistic and developmental-oriented manifestos that would address development challenges and improve the lives of Ghanaians. I mean, just basically saying that political parties need to be realistic about what they put in their guidelines and what they want to achieve, the manifestos when they come into office. Do you think we'll come to that very point where it's not always about being so ambitious, but being realistic about what could be achieved within a term of 4 years?
Development in Ghana. I tell you what, our system is structured to fail. The Ghanaian political setup.
What's your evidence?
The political setup, the government structure is engineered.
Is it a hunch and a fear
it's not, it's a fact, and I'll substantiate it. It's structured to fail. We have a very top-heavy structure that is so detached from the masses of the people on the ground, the grassroots. I tell you what, you go to the polls, you vote a president into office who is a de facto dictator per our constitution, because according to the laws of this country, the resources of the whole country are vested in one man, who is the president. Every resource. That is why...
You mean what the Constitution says, yes, the executive?
Exactly. That is why if they go and sign an agreement that 99% of our oil should be given out, you and I can do nothing about it. And the only point at which we can make a difference is if we're able to rally ourselves onto the street to resist this.
That's a revolution.
Exactly. And it is unfortunate that in the 21st century, we have a constitution and a governmental structure which is like that. They will tell you that, look, we have decentralized the system. We have district assemblies. We have regional ministers and all that. But the fact remains that the DCE still kowtows to his boss, who is the president. If he doesn't give him money, he can't do anything. You understand? That is why most people are saying, look, let's elect our DCEs. If DCEs were elected, they'll be directly accountable to the people. They are not. They are accountable to their boss, who is the president. You understand? The ministers are accountable to their boss, who is the president. It's a demagogical structure that we have, and it is not working. We have to revise it. We have our country segmented into several pieces. You know, we have regional ministers, we have DCEs, we have AMA authorities, and you can't really see any coherence in what they do.
There's no coordination, you believe?
There's no coordination.
And as a result of that, what they achieve comes to naught
at the end of the day. We've just created structures around our problems, and all what those structures have succeeded in doing is they've created jobs for the boys, and there is no effect being felt by the people on the ground. If we were a serious people, if we wanted to develop this country, we would have segmented our country according to ecological and agro zones based on resources that should be used to industrialize, so that when we are voting, we know that this area, our duty is to grow cassava, and the output is what? Starch. So that we know that if our local economy, let's say in the Ashanti region, should improve, then it should be by the number of acres by which this man has increased our cultivation of cassava. How many, the tonnage of starch,
and then those will be the benchmark by which they'll be
specific
held accountable
developmental benchmarks that the people can hold.
That's a very good point coming from Jason. But in respects of many cases where we have political parties giving ambitious targets to themselves and even doing advocacy, publicity and campaign on all that, and based on that they are voted into office, that creates a lot more difficulty for those who tend to measure the benchmarks at the end of the day. We have Dr. Ali Dusedu. He is a political scientist with the University of Ghana. A very good morning to you, sir. Now, we're having IDEC telling us that parties must formulate realistic manifestos. We haven't seen parties formulating that over the course of the Fourth Republic. Is that the case?
Yeah. Mr. Walker, before I attack this question, I address this question, I need to make two important points, which is very, very, very crucial. The first is that political parties are voluntary associations. Membership is free. You are not obliged to be a member of a political party. You can decide to be a member of a political party today. The next day you change to a different political party. You are not forced to belong to a political party. The second important point is that the ultimate goal of every political party is to win political power. If you are a political party and you've never won a political power, you have to assess yourself as a party. If we put these two things together, winning power and voluntary membership, it suggests that political parties should be able to make themselves very attractive to people who are not obliged to belong to them, to be able to win power. And how do they do this? By articulating and aggregating social interests of citizens and transform this social interest into political projects. You cannot fake the social interest of the people. So if your policies and programs are based on the social interest of the people, which you articulate and aggregate into a holistic policy, then it suggests that policies that political parties formulate must be realistic, because first of all, you cannot fake the interest of the people. So if your policies are not realistic, then it means that when you come to power, it becomes very difficult to implement them. So I very much agree with IDEC's submission that political parties must formulate realistic policies, because the manifesto, which represents the aspiration of the political parties to rise to power must be realistic, so that when they come to power, they know what they are going to do. It must also be dynamic and current, because even though social aspirations or the grievances of the people can date as long as history is, you have to look at what they need now currently, which is very important. So the manifesto, apart from being realistic, must be dynamic and current.
Okay. Well, I do understand all your points, but in this day and age where we have a vibrancy of the media, which has also taken a global perspective, and so even a Ghanaian in the US is always having a linkage to whatever happens at home. And then also the electorate is always being fed with a lot more ambitious targets than could be achieved. Why would you blame political parties competing among themselves who want to perhaps do the best than the other could, just because they want to win political power? Is it not all about competition and what I can promise I can do?
It's all about competition, I agree. But the thing is that you don't promise people what you cannot deliver. It's just like setting a question that you cannot answer in an exam. Because if there is one thing winning power, which the manifesto is going to lead you to, but there is another thing performing. Because at the end of the day, the marking scheme that citizens are going to use to mark the success of the government is going to be based on the manifesto that you have promised them. So the manifesto is not just a means to an end, but it is also a means in itself. Because after you have won power based on the campaign that you have made, citizens are going to vet you, your performance and your achievements vis-a-vis what you have promised them. So under that circumstance, the manifesto comes back to play again. So you just don't do a manifesto, promise people what you cannot achieve, then win power. And then at the end of the 4 years, you come back to them and seek their mandate. Because definitely they are rational people, and they are definitely going to vet your performances. And the yardstick that they use to vet your performances is going to be the same manifesto that you promised them. So even though we still need to win power, but we should make realistic promises that we will be able to achieve. If you make promises that you never can achieve, then it's going to be very difficult for citizens to vet you and pass you for what you have done when you want political power. Okay. So we have to be realistic.
Dr. Saidu, you're a young person, but you're also an intellectual. You've witnessed the political space and what has been happening over the last 2 decades in this country. Would you say that the political parties then are holding a lot more of the larger population to ransom, just because, well, the rest of the population don't have the powers, don't hold political office, are not the ones elected in office, and so even though they need to be responsible, I mean the political parties, they can only do what they can do and nothing could be done to them?
Yeah, I agree. But one of the reasons why we're facing these challenges we have in this country is the fact that most of the political manifestos of the parties we have in this country are not based on genuine grievances of the people.
Meaning what? You mean that people's concerns are not, and their developmental needs are not incorporated in the manifestos?
Most of them. What they do is that they look at the competing parties at the top, what they have in their manifesto, and then they say we also have the same in our manifesto.
Or more.
So literally what most of them do is that they try to outdo each other in terms of promises. And most of this, so if I think my number one contender, for example, in the 2016 election is Party A, I try to look at what Party A is going to promise the people. Then I promise something better than that. But what is the guarantee that what Party A is promising and whom I am copying from is making a realistic promises? Or to what extent does that promises reflect the aspirations of the people? So I think political parties should first of all conduct extensive research. They can do that. They have been doing public opinion and opinion polls to see whether they'll win or not. Okay. Most of the things that they should do should reflect what the people want. If you are able to do an extensive research and you see what the people want, what they like, and the extent to which they like it, then that can inform the policies that you are going to to promise them going forward, and that can go to a larger extent to shape the manifesto that you are going to draw. But if you don't do that, you think, oh, party A has this, and people are so much attached to it, then you also promise the same. Let's look at the election 2012. The MPP, for example, had, I'm not going to contest whose idea was the first, but the MPP had free senior high school. And look at all the parties. They were promising free education, some from primary school to university level, some from only senior high, some from, we copy. But to what extent was that particular policy alone going to solve the aspirations of many Ghanaians? So what you should do is that you should look at what the people actually want and what is going to help them and help develop the economy and make their lives better, rather than just copying from what others have in their manifesto.
Well, thank you very much. I know this very subject, we can take 2 hours to discuss it fully. Is that not the truth?
Yeah, it's true.
Thank you very much. Dr. Alidu Seidu is a political science lecturer with the Political Science Department of the University of Ghana, making his contributions known on that very subject of the need for political parties to come out with realistic promises in their manifestos. So the line items in the manifestos should be achievable, should be timely, should be realistic, should be all that. All the smart things that we keep talking about. But Prince, I was on you. Then it's all about ambition. And once you the political parties, you get power, the people are excluded until the next 4 years when you have to tell them sweet things and they have to vote you in power, depending on how they like you or not, or how you've performed.
I think I likely agree with Dr. Alidu Seidu's submissions. Except that I wanted to make a point about it is not entirely correct that our financial resources in the country is vested in the executive presidency. I think Parliament is there.
The resources of state.
Yes. Parliament controls our resources. So in any case, if President has an agreement to make, it does that through Parliament, and it is.
So your counter argument is that it's not solely.
No, he's misconstruing my argument. I think I should make myself clearer. Okay. I say the resources of the state are vested in one man, the president.
You mean largely?
Entirely. So that at the end of the day, the executive will always make the decision, bring the bill to Parliament.
For account,
At the end of the at the end of the day, in that Parliament, a lot of the time, which has been the case always, has a majority, which is part of the executive. It's like setting an exam for yourself and asking yourself to mark that same exam. So you see what I'm talking about?
Rather be looking at it is because of the way our partisan politicking is. That is how come we are seeing it that way. Other than that, if I'm elected to a party, but I have a conscience of myself to be there as an independent person and represent the people that elected me, then I must do things in that order.
So you agree that the system is engineered to fail?
Prince, let me ask you, do you think that the way the parties are operating now, for example, your party has been in opposition, is in opposition, the MPP, excluded from all activities of the state. As a result of that, there's that inherent culture of always abhorring or inculcating that animosity, that level of hate, and that attitude of vengeance, etc. And as a result of that, sometimes politicians tend to be very parochial as to what should be the national interest and not.
I think
it's possible.
Made it that way, and I want to agree with them largely that even in terms of our political organizations, immediately after the national elections, we are left with a series of elections from the constituency, polling station, constituency, regional, national. So it becomes like a cycle, and we are centered on only our internal elections rather than focusing on the developmental needs of the people that we are electing officers to come and represent. So I am agreeing with that. In that line, I agree perfectly. But you see, I am seeing it like in this current situation. I missed the MPP of 1996 to the 2000.
You were not in government then?
Yes,
you were in
I
opposition.
missed. You see, we ought to be doing what we used to do. Now, if you take challenges
we have to end.
On health, we should have experts within our party just to look at the challenges and offer solutions that we will come in, we'll form government to solve them. trade the same thing.
You mean the shadow solution?
They should be that way, so that the people will know that we have
like happens in the UK,
a quality alternative.
Okay. Then again, I have.
That's why we're in our discussions. Unfortunately, I'm sorry. We only have basically an hour to do other discussions. Right, okay. And Prince Aminu is a spokesperson for the Dombo Advocacy Forum. He's also a member of the MPP as well. And Jason Tutu is a member of the CPP. The CPP's communication team, and thanks for joining me, gentlemen. I hope to have you sometime. It's been an interesting discussion having the two of you, very much young people, and